Now let's take a look at how to duplicate objects. In 3ds Max, duplication is called cloning, and there are three different ways to clone an object. We can make a copy, we can instance it, and we can reference it. Now the difference is how the objects are connected together. So let's go ahead and start with this first chair. Now if we want, we can go into clone by going into Edit, Clone, and the hotkey for that is Control V. And when I clone an object, it's going to ask me what to do, to copy it, to instance it, or to reference it, and it's going to ask for a name. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave this on copy, and then go ahead and copy it. Now notice how another object comes up, and if I do select and move, I can move that object off of it. So now we have two objects. Now because we copied these are not connected. If I were to go into one of these objects here and manipulate it, the original wouldn't be affected. Now this is not the case with instancing. So if I take this object here, and let's do another clone or Control V, and in this case we're going to instance the object. So again, it makes a duplicate of the object, but now because we instanced these two, they are connected. So if I take this object here and manipulate it, notice how it affects the other one. Now this manipulation is only for things that affect the shape of the object. If I were to rotate or scale this second instance object, it wouldn't affect the original. It's only for things that affect the way that the object physically looks. In other words, things that are in the object's modifier stack. Now we really haven't covered the modifier stack, but just know that this is a way to manipulate objects. Now the last way to clone an object is through reference. So if I do clone and reference this, again, I can move it off the other object. And if I go into this and manipulate it, it will affect that. Now the difference between instancing and referencing is that this instancing is a two-way connection. Referencing is not. So if I take this second object here and I go into my modifier panel, and let's go ahead and just add a bend onto this object. When I do, notice how both of these light up. That means that they're connected both ways. So if I affect one, it will affect the other. So if I change the angle of this, notice how they both change. Now if I do that same thing to the reference, it only affects the original. But if I affect the original, notice how it affects both. So what we have is we have really two situations. In an instance, it's a two-way communication. This object informs this object and vice versa. In a reference, it's one way. This object informs this object, but it doesn't go back the other way. So you can take this object and add more changes to it, and it won't affect the original. So when we're working with objects and duplicating them, remember, we have three ways. We have copy, which creates no connection, instance, which creates a two-way connection, and reference, which is only a one-way connection from the original to the copy.